One of the funny things about Acts is that though it's such a brilliant and passionate book, it is often set aside by congregations and denominations when they're discussing doctrine. People tend, when discussing doctrine and going back to the Bible, to go to Paul and Hebrews particularly, and then perhaps particularly, in some respects at least, to the Gospels. And the doctrinal traditions of churches in the Western world, especially Protestant churches, has tended to put Paul on a pedestal. And because the speeches of Paul in Acts don't quite fit what some people expect to hear, people sometimes just hold back from them a bit. But as I've worked on Acts again and again, I've been struck by all sorts of ways in which Acts actually contributes directly to doctrinal discussions. For instance, on the resurrection. Sometimes people write whole books about the resurrection, taking 1 Corinthians 15, which is obviously important and central, but forgetting that in passages like Acts 2 and many other places, we have very clear statements about resurrection based on the Psalms and elsewhere, where David says, "You will not let your Holy One see corruption," which makes it clear that for Luke, resurrection is not a fancy way of talking about going to heaven when you die or your soul going away from the body, but is about new bodies or the renewal of physical life, and so on and so on. And in particular, when it comes to the meaning of the cross, people have often gone for Paul and Hebrews, quite rightly and naturally, but have forgotten that it's in Acts that we find Paul saying to the Ephesian elders that you must feed the church of God which he purchased with his own blood. And it's in Acts that you find that Jesus is commissioning Paul to go to the Gentiles because they are to turn from the power of Satan to God, because the power of evil has been defeated on the cross. And likewise with the question actually of who Jesus himself is. Acts begins with the ascension, but the ascension is often misunderstood. The ascension doesn't mean Jesus just going away and leaving us to our own devices. I've sometimes heard people say that. The one who is now seated in heaven is the one who is joining heaven and earth together and is its rightful Lord. And if we'd got that right, then all sorts of things, not only about who Jesus is, but about the social and cultural and even political implications of who Jesus is, might have come out clearly. So I suspect it's a kind of long-term laziness on the part of many churches down the years to go to the obvious places that people have written dogmatic textbooks out of, and to view Acts as simply giving us some of the backstory. And actually that isn't just a problem about Acts, it's a problem about the Gospels as well. But that is another story.